Welcome to Nice Ashes. I'm Nate.
And I'm Mike.
What are we smoking tonight, Mike? It looks interesting.
Yes. So we have completed our CAO flavors tour, and now we are going to have one more flavored cigar for you. This is the Cult Blood Red Moon cigar. The Cult Blood Red Moon tobacco, pipe tobacco, is excellent. So if you see that on a shelf, buy it. But
And what flavor is that?
cherry. It is cherry.
And that was the last CAO flavor we smoked was cherry, so we're doing a cherry to a cherry.
Yes, we are. We're going from one to the next.
So
cigar.
yeah.
Go ahead there, Nate.
I was going to say, initially, this is a cigar that would give me pause if I were alone because it's got kind of two tapered ends. One's a little pointier, and one you can actually see some of the tobacco through, and is a little kind of fatter in diameter.
Yes. And I believe that you should snip the pointy end, smoke it from that end, and light it on the end that is not pointed. Just like you would a standard torpedo.
Okay.
So that is
what we shall
assessment. Do. And I'm also going to use a flat cutter today, weirdly enough.
Well, it would be fairly difficult to do your cross-cut V-cut.
Yes, the torpedo point is extremely exaggerated. So, yes.
All right, well, I'm snipped, and here we go. Woo! I don't know if it's just because of the small diameter, but holy smokes, that first one was a bit.
It's strong.
Yeah.
It's a strong. I do get some cherry out of it, though. So, and we're going to see if my pairings are any good. The first pairing is going to be bad, I'm certain. But after that,
I think my pairing will be bad as well because I've got like a fruit punch vodka carbonated water thing here. So,
my first drink is the rest of a can of Guinness that I had opened 2 days ago when I was working in my shop in the basement.
Okay.
And my second one is a Stella. So I'm sure that that'll be fine. But the Guinness is at least 2 days old, opened in the fridge, in my basement fridge.
So I'm not getting any cherry off of this one initially, I don't think. Maybe I will as we kind of work our way down, though.
Ooh, that's a very strong taste.
Yeah, not of cherry, though.
No, that's a very strong tobacco taste.
The tobacco is overpowering almost anything else I can even taste or smell right now.
Right. Yeah, it's a very strong. And the Cult Blood Red Moon pipe tobacco is one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's great. Not that this is a pipe tobacco podcast. But
not yet. We could do a special episode. Bonus episode.
Yes, guys, I think I have all the CAO flavors in pipe tobacco as well.
I'm not doing that Bella Vanilla again, though. Like, I don't think so.
Not even as a pipe tobacco.
I don't know. Maybe.
Don't be so prejudiced. You gotta live and let live, or whatever.
Or if you're Paul McCartney, you just live and let die. So it's always that. I'm gonna kind of let that one sit, I think, just for a second here.
The start is extremely harsh. I will not tell a lie. We are not even past to the point. We're not even to the. Upwards.
Yeah, we're still tapering up, and then it gets to the its girthiest part, and then it tapers all the way down. So I'm gonna let that sit just for a little bit, and then we'll try again.
Yes.
So yeah, when you said it was cherry flavored, I thought, it'll be kind of like that CAO, but it's not. No, at least not right now. So we'll see as it goes along here.
Well, I I have to admit to the listeners, I've had these cigars for a couple months, and I actually gave one of these to my wife's uncle on Christmas because we were smoking cigars out in the garage at his place, and he disliked it strongly. He strongly disliked it.
Yep. So Mike waits until we're already lit and committed to doing this cigar before he tells me that.
Yes.
That news.
Well, I do it beforehand, and I'm still sucking in. That is awful.
Well, did he make it all the way through?
Bella Vanilla. Huh?
Did he make it all the way through, or no?
Yeah, he did. He did.
I mean, it's really harsh.
It's incredible how bad it is, especially from a reputable brand.
Yeah. Hopefully once we get to that girth part, I don't know what you call it, the ridge,
the hump. We'll call it the hump. Oh,
the obelisk, yeah, whatever. Yeah, the hump. Hopefully once we get there, it really starts to come down. I'm thinking because of the kind of like how narrow it is right now where it's burning, that hopefully that's what's causing it, and maybe once we get past that, it'll hopefully mellow out. Hopefully we can get some cherry flavor. Maybe. We'll see. I don't really have high hopes because I would have expected to have tasted some of the cherry by now.
Well, yeah, usually it's
at least a hint,
The cherry flavoring is on both of the tips, so to speak. So you taste the cherry with your mouth, and then you from the wrapper, and then you taste it, and then kind of the middle of the cigar, the flavor starts to go away.
Well, I think my really strong fruit punch flavored drink here is actually a very good combo to this one at this point, because it's
my Guinness was great. The first I only had like a gulp in it, but it was wonderful. It cleared all that nasty shit out of my mouth.
Yep. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to try and give this one a fair shake. Hopefully we're not going to cancel another cigar before we get to the end of it, but anything can happen.
Which one did we do that? Was it the Bella Vanilla?
Yeah, that was the Bella Vanilla. We just put it out and wrapped the episode. We're like, we're done.
This is way worse than the Bella Vanilla. There's no part of this that is enjoyable to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. So I just took another puff, and I don't know if that's like stale tasting, if it's just the, I don't know if they went around like the tobacco plantation and picked up like the sun-dried stuff that had fallen off and then decided to put it in here and slap a cherry on it, or.
Yes. And before anybody says, oh, it's a bad humidor, I'm smoking one that was from my humidor, and Nate is smoking one that was in his humidor. So,
yeah, if our humidors are bad, then everything else should have tasted bad too, I think. But yeah, we don't really have humidity problems with our humidors, and they're not overcrowded or anything. If you are a humidor expert and want to come by and give us both a free assessment and pointers, you're more than welcome. But I'm with Mike. I think this is. It's too early to call it. Initially, if I weren't doing a podcast, this one might be one that would just be put out, and I'd go grab something else. But because we're doing this for you, the listeners, and we want you to be informed without necessarily having to smoke all of these, we're going to power through for a little bit longer anyway.
I am a centimeter in. I'm past the hump. I am past the hump.
That's more than a centimeter.
Do you think so? Half an inch, maybe?
Yeah, it's got to be. The hump has got to. Oh well, the hump on mine is like 3/4, maybe.
You think so? I have one more in my humidor.
We'll go measure.
I think I have one more, and I could check it out, I guess. But it feels like it's been an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, so what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I think you should pick what we talk about today.
Should pick. Oh my God.
Well, I've been, you know what? Every time I pick, you say I make you uncomfortable. So
Oh, geez, Nate. Oh, geez, Nate.
And it's the same with podcast topics and movies. I mean, I'm sorry you didn't like Brokeback Mountain with me, but you didn't want to ride the horsey like I said would actually enhance the movie watching experience.
Yeah, the whole projector in the field with the horses, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, the horses were skittish. Okay, so that's but they're animals. They're not trained.
That's true. That's true. We probably should have got trained horses.
Might have helped.
So anyway, it's today was kind of a momentous day. Did it drop today?
It
The
dropped
Roe versus
on
Wade.
Friday. Friday.
Oh, it dropped on Friday. Okay, so yeah, we're recording this right after Roe versus Wade got scratched.
No,
and,
that's not right. Roe versus Wade got aborted.
got aborted. Ooh, yes, yes, yes.
Which if you've listened to one of our previous podcasts, we're both pro Roe v. Wade,
Yes.
despite being men.
Well, I think it's hilarious. I was watching the news with my parents. I was over there earlier for dinner, and there's states that have the automatic abortion bans.
Yep,
A
the
significant
trigger.
portion of them are putting
What is
a
it called?
pause.
The trigger laws.
The trigger law, yeah. There's a few of them that have put a pause on the trigger law because they never thought it would actually happen.
Okay.
And they don't. The governors don't actually want to close the abortion clinics down.
Because I think initially, like right now, I think there's 13 states where now it's illegal.
Something like that. Something like that. I know that in Fargo, they've already raised $700,000 to move the abortion clinic from Fargo to Moorhead, and they're looking for $1 million.
Okay.
So, in Minnesota, that'll be the case for Minnesota. Every highway will have an abortion clinic on whatever town is on the border.
Yep. Then all we need to do is legalize weed, and we can have abortion clinics right next door to the dispensaries.
I know, right? I know, which is fine. And then
Yeah.
I heard that Justice Thomas opened up his gobstap there and started yapping about how he was open to revoking Miranda rights, and he was open to revoking gay marriage legally, and he was open
And
to
contraceptives.
contraceptives. Yep. And then I heard some talk about the civil. It's not the Civil Rights Act. There's some other interpretation of the law that they made that made separate versus equal. Brown versus Board of Education. That's the one. So,
Okay.
yeah. Which ended segregation, basically.
Well,
It was separate but equal.
I mean, if they're looking to roll things back, I mean, they certainly have their agenda laid out for them with all that stuff, I guess.
Well,
We're coming. I mean, the 1950s are coming back.
Yeah, that's like, it doesn't bother me necessarily personally because I live in Minnesota, and so none of that will affect us personally. Like
Well, yet. I mean,
Well,
depends on what
it
they do
won't
with the
because the state will-
contraceptives.
the state will pass a law that protects contraceptives. I don't know if we might even already have a law in the book. It's possible. Minnesota is one of the states that has legal abortion written into the law.
Yeah.
So, and I think that Minnesota would have a hell of a time banning contraception because of the state employees unions. I don't think that they would take kindly to that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know how many states would actually ban contraception. I know that back in the day they did, but
That just sounds like, yeah. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know about any of it. Like, none of it should be really like on the docket, as it were. But
right.
I'm not part of a crazy right-wing religious cult, so I'm
Right.
sorry. I'm not part of Christianity.
Yes, I'm not under any sort of delusion that the government is there to push my morality forward.
No.
Because like I say, the government is not a moral actor. It is not a moral actor. It does not decide what's right and wrong for people to do.
But I think now it's trying to is the problem because, you can't be for, people's personal choices in life and then say you can't have an abortion, you can't marry the same-sex people, you can't have contraceptives, you can't go to school with black people if you're white or vice versa.
On the same note, the government's also trying to, or certain state governments are trying to push some pro-LGBT things onto businesses and things like that in different ways, which I'm not necessarily against being pro-gay rights. I'm for gay rights, but at the same time, I don't think that it's the government's place to tell you that you can't be a fucking prick. Like, it is your right to be an asshole. It's your right to be a worthless person.
Yeah,
so,
there's that.
You can
and
be a
I
scumbag.
think,
it is allowed.
I mean, it can definitely swing too far in both directions.
For sure.
So I'm over the hump now. The tobacco has mellowed out, I think, in my opinion. I wouldn't go so far to say it's a good smoke, and I wouldn't go so far to say that I taste any cherry whatsoever.
I'm over the hump. I would say that the tobacco is not good, but it's no longer vile.
Yes. Yep.
It was vile. It is now
it was not good.
Bearable. I'm not going to say it's good because it's not good. It's still bad. And I taste no cherry whatsoever.
No, I think this kind of pains me to say this. But I'd rather smoke that Bin Maduro we had without tequila on it before this one.
Absolutely. There is no doubt. I would rather smoke the Bin Maduro with vodka on it.
Well, I'd rather smoke that almost all day, every day. But because I love vodka cigars. Or tequila cigar. Oh, vodka cigar is terrible. Tequila cigar. Yeah, tequila cigar is the good stuff.
For those who don't know.
I don't think we talked about it.
Did we not talk about it, or did we?
I don't know. I can't remember.
We were at a party a while back, and we tried it with a locally produced vodka on it. Which is
great vodka, by the way.
Which is great vodka. For those of you who live next to a distillery, try out whatever your local alcohol is, because it's probably very good. Yes. Most likely, it's
not necessarily on your cigar. I think tequila is like the magic cigar liquor, because the vodka didn't enhance the flavor, and then we had the very bland flavor of the Bin Maduro, and then just vodka, but it kind of like all soaked in. But it didn't do anything to enhance the flavor, so it was just like drinking kind of a slow, just sipping vodka and and having a very bland cigar. So it was not ideal.
No, it was unpleasant. We might have to try it with some whiskey or something next time.
Yeah. What about like white rum?
Oh, we could do that. Do some real McCoy.
Yeah, and maybe gin. Gin, I don't know. We'll have to. I think the clear liquors.
Gin would be. I don't know if that piney taste would be all that good with it.
I'm not sure.
What I mean?
You know what? If our listeners want us to, I don't see why not. We'll just go grab a couple more Bin Maduros, and we'll set up gin for one, and we'll do white rum, and we'll do whiskey. I wonder if brandy might be okay. That's generally a little sweeter.
Oh, brandy would be great, potentially.
Possibly.
Get some
we thought vodka would be good, but
I did think it. I like that vodka. It's sweet, that vodka.
Yeah, not sweet enough.
So yeah, this is horrible.
It's not good.
I'm not a fan.
No.
So yeah, my mom was all psychotic about it. She's pro-life, kind of not.
Okay, and we're talking Roe v. Wade, not the cigar,
Roe v.
right?
Wade, yeah, Roe v. Wade. She worked with lower income people for her profession. She's retired now, but she's against the whole using abortion as a birth control method, because she saw a lot of that in her career, dealing with people who are lower income. and she
Oh, and
doesn't
that's
care
kind of
for
what it
that.
comes down to. Is all the rich people will still get them, and
Oh, sure.
the religious people, guess what? They'll still get them, but they'll have some kind of story concocted in their head how their abortion doesn't count because they, asked forgiveness from God or God told them to get it or
Oh, they'll just cover it up.
whatever. Yeah, well,
They'll
they'll
just
cover it
cover it
up,
up.
and there's reports of Christians saying that have gotten abortions that said their abortions didn't count. I
Is
don't know
that kind of
how or
like the
why.
born again virgin phenomenon?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want my foreskin back.
I my my I will not go into any further detail than to say that my father's family is anti-Catholic traditionally.
Okay.
So old English stock, as they say.
Yes.
So yes, non-religious.
Crazy. It's crazy what people normalize under the guise of religion.
Oh yes, oh yes, for sure. It's interesting. Uh, that's like the female genital mutilation that was going on in Minnesota a couple years back. I don't know if they stamped that out or they just stopped talking about it.
I don't think I heard about that.
Oh yeah, there
But
was.
I don't Google female genitalia near as often as Mike does, I guess.
No, no, you probably don't. But there was a Republican woman, state senator, who was trying to ban it, and a bunch of Democrats came out against banning female genital mutilation in the state senate a couple years ago. It was all
That
crazy.
sounds pretty weird.
Yeah, it's when I was working in North Dakota, and I was not a resident of the state of Minnesota at the time.
So what's
So
the why female genital mutilation? Like why?
in specifically in Minnesota, it's the Somali population that does it,
But
but
what I
it's
mean, what
kind of an
beliefs?
African thing. Uh, from what I understand, there's like a cultural thing against women getting sexual pleasure in parts of Africa and the Middle
I
East.
thought that was worldwide.
Sure. I don't think that's worldwide, Nate.
Well, do your homework, boys. Is all I'm saying.
I don't think it's worldwide, Nate. I've lived in the United States for 30 some years, and uh,
And
there's never been a
all
ban
women.
on women enjoying sex in the United
No, I
States,
was
as far as
making
I'm
a joke.
aware.
Like a lot
Ugh.
of times men don't please their partners.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, so it's so they're anti female pleasure, so that's why they mutilate all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there was a big movement to ban it in Minnesota, and there was resistance. And then they caught a doctor in Michigan performing the surgery because it's kind of like the whole uh, circumcision thing in the Jewish community where the rabbis do it. Well, like
Hmm.
the local shaman or whatever they call the guy usually does the surgery, and there was a couple doctors that were doing it, and it blew up there for a quick minute.
Yeah, I
And
think
I hope that
they're
they're
not. I just googled this. They're not called shaman. They're called clippers.
well, I don't want to like attack shamanic religions either. I just don't know what the term is. So they're not. What are they? Clerics? I don't know what they call them. They're not priests.
Yeah, they're they're bad people, and they should be
Well,
stopped.
like cutting off clitorises has never been a part of the culture that I exist in. So at
Nor
least not
should
in the
it
written
be.
record. Well, it's
Nor
kind
should
of
it
weird.
be.
By kind of weird, I mean it's really fucking weird.
Well, it's as weird as circumcision, I guess. Like if you think about
Uh,
it, the only reason
yeah,
circumcision isn't weird is because like it's been going on for so long,
sure. I mean
and
that's
they
true.
and they and they do it, before the any of the men have kind of like memory, like it just happens and you have no say,
Right.
and that's
From
that.
what I understand, the female clitoris removal can be pretty damaging, like beyond what it is to a man.
I should think, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not exactly equivalent, but it is intellectually but it's not in reality.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fucked up. Like I say, I haven't looked into it for a long time. It doesn't really something that directly affects me. I'm definitely against mutilating the genitals of any child.
Yeah. How about just like against mutilating anybody?
Well, I mean, if the punishment fits the crime, I guess. I could imagine certain circumstances where somebody would feel.
Yeah, okay. Let's just say
acceptable.
I'm against mutilating anybody for religious purposes.
Mm. I would agree with that. Us being largely non-religious.
Yeah.
Like, generally non-religious. At least not extreme religious. So, there we go. I don't think there's ever been a Unitarian female genital mutilator.
Yeah. I don't know. There might be. If we Google it,
I don't know. It's kind of like there's a joke that I was told there's never been a Unitarian terrorist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, except for the founding fathers.
Well, I mean, they weren't terrorists for like the cause of Unitarianism.
Well, no, but they were terrorists in England's eyes. I guess there's always two sides, two viewpoints.
Well, they were terrorists who happened to be Unitarians. They weren't necessarily because.
Oh, now you'll split hairs.
So, I devoutly believe that I don't know exactly what's going on, but I think that it's this.
Yes. I think I do know what's going on here. I'm halfway through this just atrocity that is this cigar, and it's not improved.
Oh.
And I'm not getting any cherry.
No, I'm getting no cherry. I'm getting
very.
I'm trying to slow it down to like
acrid tobacco.
Yes, this is like a gas station cigar that is not humidified.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I mean, maybe they put all their good tobacco into their pipe tobacco, and then, anything that doesn't pass muster, they're like, let's just fucking wrap it up and sell it.
Maybe. I know that the pipe tobacco is good. This would be way better if they would have just done a Maduro blunt with the cherry pipe tobacco inside of it.
Yeah. This. I think that this would be better if they literally would have done anything other than what they did to it.
Yes, this is worse. This is worse than the Bella Vanilla, I think, because it's so strong.
I would. You know what? I would smoke the Bella Vanilla before this one, if I absolutely had to. But this one is very much one I will never, ever, ever smoke again.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, it's not good. So, do you think, to bring things back, do you think that the people protesting then are justified if most of the states are going to decide on their own? I mean, it's kind of like the states' rights versus federal.
Nate, I'll be honest. I'm of two minds. The passive-aggressive Minnesotan in me is happy that the Supreme Court is going to roll back human rights. Because I live in Minnesota, and that means that states like Minnesota will get less brain drain to shitholes like Texas, and people will be more inclined to stay here because they're going to be not subject to being terrorized and harassed by assholes.
Yeah, you know what? My counterpoint to that is, on one hand, it sounds great if you have these places where the laws reflect whatever your beliefs are, and then you actually move to those places. But I think in reality, these people aren't going to go and move to places where the laws reflect their desires or their beliefs, and they instead will then not rest until wherever they're living also reflects what their beliefs are. Because I don't think any American really has ever moved in America, any modern American, has ever really moved anywhere for their beliefs except to Florida because there's no income tax or something. So
There's a lot of that tax stuff. I knew a lot of guys that had PO boxes in South Dakota because there you can be a resident and just have a PO box that you check like twice a year. And that was at one time that law. You had to physically be in the state 2 times a year to check your mail. And there's towns there that have more PO boxes than people that live in them. You know, and that's kind of like their business model there. But it's hard to say. People used to do it. I mean, I know it's definitely a regression to like the old Green Book days,
mm-hmm.
Which you know what the Green Book is when I reference that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But for those of our listeners that aren't in America and aren't familiar with that portion of American history, there's actually a movie that they made about it called The Green Book, and it's got Viggo Mortensen and I think it's Mahershala Ali. But The Green Book was a travel guide for African Americans, knowing which states and towns and things were friendly to African Americans.
Which gas stations even?
Yeah, I mean, I think they broke it down as far as they could, provided as much detail as they could.
Yeah, they basically have pit stops on highways and.
Yeah, and the movie is really well done too. So if you'd rather not read about it and just kind of watch, I thought the movie was well done.
But I don't know. I think people who are educated and who have the ability to move may do it. Of course, the people who are not in a position to move are screwed, which stinks for them.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, overturning Roe v. Wade really affects the poor people.
Yes.
And minorities. So, then those are probably the people that don't have the resources to move. And I just think we have a constitutional amendment banning slavery.
Yes.
And so, why wouldn't we at the federal level have, the utmost freedom of people's choices?
Well, the federal government could pass a law today and make it happen, but they don't. Maybe they will.
They only pass laws when congressmen and things are being harassed at their homes.
Potentially. I mean, this is where we get when nationally that half the population doesn't even vote, which I understand that in a lot of ways our elections are held in such a manner that poorer people and a lot of working class people can't vote. And I do have a certain amount of quote unquote privilege with that because I do get 4 hours paid to go vote. If I want, if I so choose, I can get paid for 4 hours to go vote.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people are in a position where they also have the time. By one means or another, they have the time to vote.
Yeah.
So
I think, and you might have a thing that would be against this, but I think with our voting process here in America, why don't we just do it all online? We pay our taxes online, a good portion of us. That's secure. Every American citizen has a Social Security number, as we discussed in another episode. Tie it to that, and don't let one Social Security number vote twice.
There could be some scamming with that. I think that maybe every state does it differently. I don't usually vote on election day. I just mail in my vote, or I'll vote at the courthouse early. When I lived in North Dakota, I would always just vote at the courthouse. In that state, at least when I lived there, for the month before the election, you could go into the courthouse, and they had a whole room set up for it, and you'd go through the line, and you could vote early. Right at the courthouse, whatever county you lived in.
Yep.
So that was pretty convenient as far as that goes. And I did mail-in voting. I haven't actually gone to the polling place to vote in many years. I always
Yeah.
vote early or by mail. But
So
again,
like,
that's
so
like
then why does mail work, but internet wouldn't? Like
uh,
I've never had anybody accidentally buy something or hack into my Amazon account and buy a bunch of stuff. I mean, I know it happens, I guess, but with all the secure stuff, and then you could have, your public libraries could be voting areas, and poor people could come in and vote.
I mean, if we really wanted voter participation, that's what we would do. But there's a lot of
Yeah,
places where they want to minimize voter participation, not maximize it. And you also have to consider we live in a state where the average turnout is above 70%. So we already have fairly high voter participation here
yeah,
relative to the average in the country, at least. You know,
yeah. I think
uh,
these nationwide issues like Roe v. Wade. I'm looking at it more of a nationwide thing. How could you get more people to vote or more people to be, to exercise their right to vote? And if they don't want to, if they can't get to the polling station, or if it's too difficult, or whatever other obstacles they have. I mean, if you could do it online through secure portal. I work online. They have like a work VPN that I have to log into. So I don't know why you couldn't have like a voting VPN, or,
well,
I
you
mean,
got
you
to
could, there's,
remember too that elections are run by the states. They're not run by the federal government. So that's always been the case in the United States. So, like nationally, women were allowed to vote in 1919, I think, or something like that. But in federal elections, women had been voting for 50 years before then
yeah,
in Western states because women were allowed the right to vote in Western states, in many of them at least. And so women were voting for president in the 1880s, just not nationwide, you know.
yeah. But aren't these voting machines, like, aren't they fairly expensive, and like to maintain them, and I
Oh
don't know,
yes. Well,
update
if you
whatever.
ask Mike Lindell, they're not safe either.
Yeah, well, if you ask Trump, like, it doesn't matter how many times you push the Trump button, like the Biden one lights up. So,
Right, right. So, and there's the
but
hanging
I don't know.
chads, and
Yeah, I
there's
mean, I
all
feel
sorts of.
like if one or two states implemented, online voting, it wouldn't be too long before other states did. Maybe not Texas, but other states that might want more voter turnout. But maybe not, because there are a few states that do the stacked ranked voting, and not all states do that, and we don't do that for president either. So,
Right. Well, like when I was living in Minot, I always voted early at the courthouse, but North Hill one year ran out of ballots. So once they hit their ballot number they had on hand, then nobody else got to vote for that day.
okay,
And they had hundreds of people who didn't cast a vote because they, quote unquote, ran out of ballots for people to cast. There's a way to control it. A lot of the people running the local elections are ultimately the ones in control. And
yeah,
there's a number of methods for them to manipulate it. Uh, Not having ballots on hand for people to use is one way.
yeah. Don't look in our dumpster. Don't look in our dumpster. But we
Right.
ran out of ballots today.
Oh, my buddy couldn't vote in that election, and he waited in line for 4 hours because they were going to get more ballots from a
Oh,
different part of
jeez.
town, and they just never came. He was not happy. He was not impressed.
Yep. So
So,
real quick, because I'm like dangerously close to getting this cigar as far away from me as possible. Um, there's been some call for expanding the Supreme Court,
sure.
and that's happened in the past, from what I've heard, and I haven't
Yes.
really looked into it. But if you understand it,
Yes, I have some understanding.
And that's basically they would just that by adding more seats to the Supreme Court, that would allow the current president Biden to put in more liberally leaning justices. Correct?
Well, theoretically, yes. I'm more cynical than that, but whoever the sitting president is, if they were to expand the court, would be the one to nominate, and then the Senate would have to approve.
Yeah, they'd still have to go through the nomination process or the vetting process.
Right. Which would only mean that there'd be more conservatives on the court at this point. Because Biden is the last Dixiecrat in the government who was opposed to desegregation back in the day. He's extremely conservative, has come out as opposed to abortion in the past. This president is not going to do that. There was talks during the Obama administration of doing that, but he was against that as well, because he was, as much as the rhetoric would make you believe otherwise, he was also a very conservative president. That's not really a realistic strategy at this point in time. The last time it was seriously considered was when FDR was president, because the Supreme Court at that time was blocking the early New Deal programs. So he threatened them to expand it to 15 justices from 9 back then. And they basically laid down and did what he told them to do then. But we had a competent president who had an agenda that was popular. So that was a totally different environment than we're currently in.
Yeah.
Whether, in hindsight, a lot of people like to poo-poo on FDR and the New Deal, but at the time it was incredibly popular.
And you know what's not incredibly popular is this cigar. And I was letting it sit, and it went out, and I'm not going to relight it. And
I'm on the last inch here.
Okay.
And the horrid, acrid taste has gone away. It is now basically just a flavorless stick of cancer in my mouth. And I'm taking no joy. It's just no longer openly offensive.
Yes. Well, that's not enough of a recommendation for me to relight this or try and do anything else with it. So I believe that's it for this episode.
Awesome. I'm tossing it in the ashtray.
I was going to say, unless you want to really get down to it and get your roach clip and smoke every last bit. But,
no, I had like an inch and a quarter left, so there was plenty left if it was good.
Yeah, I had, let's see, it's about maybe 2 1/4 inches left, and it's just, I'm not...
Out of a 4-inch cigar, you had 2 inches left and you're giving it up?
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't and I won't do it.
That's horrible.
This one is a hard pass from me.
Oh, man.
Hard pass.
Yeah, I heartily recommend the Cult Blood Moon pipe tobacco. If you can find it, it's always sold out everywhere. Very popular.
And I heartily recommend anything other than this cigar.
Yeah, it's wretched.
Anything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll pick you up next time.
Toodles.